One of my favorite retail memories is mostly only as a concept because of how cool of a moment it was. I have university level, but only really just passing level, of French language knowledge, and sometimes I wonder if people like me with a second language dream if there will ever come a time when we can help out in just the right moment by translating between two strangers. However, my moment to shine was actually a time when I got to translate from my native English to English. I listen to a lot of BBC Radio 4 shows, and really enjoy the variety of accents from different celebs and comedy shows there, so I've gotten used to a bunch of the really thick accents, and enjoy picking apart the patterns in each. By some stroke of magic, while doing my rounds as a DSD vendor at Small Shart one day, I came across two ladies who had super thick accents speaking in English to each other, trying to talk to each other, and each becoming increasingly frustrated. One had a really deep accent, from I'm guessing loosely the India region, and another with a very heavy Spanish accent. It seemed like as they got more and more frustrated, the more they defaulted to less enunciation and thus their heavier native accents. The conversation isn't verbatim, just conceptually accurate. The broader context is that they are friends and are shopping as an experiment and participating in a mutual errand together, to get to know each other and their preferences better. Their argument is in the sense of a friendly one, not a heated stranger tirade. Spanish accent, I just can't understand you. India accent, I'm not sure what you are saying to me, but I only am trying to tell you which aisle we should go to next. It's nothing to yell about. Why are you yelling? Spanish, your accent is so thick I can only just barely make out one or two words. Speak slower. India, maybe if we stop yelling, we could sound it out. You speak too fast when you are yelling. Me, what's the issue here? Spanish, can you understand her? She is talking too fast for me to understand. Me, sure. It's like a really heavy India accent, but I like it, it's very nice. India, she is yelling so it is tough for me to understand her. Me, oh. Well, I can understand you both fine. What is it you want to say? Duh, they just told me. India, will you tell her she is yelling for no reason? I was only trying to say which aisle we should go to next. But she is yelling for some reason and I can't understand her when she is yelling. Spanish, I need her to speak slower. When she speaks so quickly I can't understand her. Me, to India, she is confused because you are speaking too fast, and can understand you better when you speak slower. Me, to Spanish, she is confused about why you are yelling, and can't understand you when you're yelling. She only wanted to say which aisle the both of you should visit next, which isn't something to yell about. Spanish, yelling, well why didn't you just say so? Me, she did, and you're still yelling. India grins. Spanish, oh. Sorry. I have a short temper sometimes I guess, smiling. India, to me, smiling, thank you. Me, I'll tell you what. I am trying to learn sign language in order to speak in passing with a deaf guy who works in the back, just to learn a few things to say hello and small chit-chat. One of the words I learned recently is slowly, and I made the sign for slow, running my right hand over the back of my left hand from knuckles to past my wrist, as if patting it gently. Maybe that could help you too. Spanish, in a calmer tone, that's not a bad idea. Spanish grabs India's arm and pets it slowly. Me, that's not what I meant. India shushes me and waves me off with her other arm, and looks into Spanish's eyes dreamily. I make my escape to do my rounds. They would later track me down again to ask me what phrase was saying, and explained the broader context. Alas, I never saw them again after that visit, but, good times. I swear Christmas shopping brings people into the store who haven't set foot in a clothing store for months. I have no other way to explain some of the behavior I am seeing. Woman approaches me with a pair of pants in hand, with her two daughters following. Hands me the pants, tells me to find them in a size 28, waist size, she's seen it on the floor. I go and check the rail where these specific pants are hanging, but there is no size 28 there. I return to her and tell her this, adding that if she would like me to, I can check in the stockroom but that might take a few minutes. She insists they are here on the floor because her daughter had them in hand. After 2 minutes of confusion, and with the help of her daughter, mind you, there is no language barrier, their accent was as British as it gets and my English is pretty decent, we figure out what she means, Her daughter had the jeans in hand, put them on a row while she was shopping and forgot where exactly she left them, and now she wants me to find them. After some more triangulating we find that they were in the sales section when this happened, so I quickly browse through the sales rail and find the pair of pants in question. Then she asks me the million-dollar question. So are they on sale now? When I was 16 I got a job at a camera store. I'm 53 now. I hadn't thought of this incident since that day, and was just reminded of it tonight. So I had gotten this super brief training and am cut loose to help customers. Not a big deal, I was into photography and knew most of the cameras we stocked. Also had to take in film for processing. Didn't sell anything for the first couple hours and then the lunch rush happened. Everyone picking up their processing. Then my first credit card customer, not as ubiquitous then as they are now. I hadn't been shown the process directly as we didn't have a customer when I was training, we kinda mimed it, and I got it, except for one important detail. I ran the card remembering the process as shown successfully. The transaction result came back, capture 43,821,638. I was stunned. I tried to let my manager know without arousing suspicion, but he was busy. I insisted and he looked and noticed I had my foot on the counter shelf and realized what was about to happen when I whispered, "Do I capture them or the card?" It turns out the word capture meant approval on those machines back then. I'm so glad I asked my manager first. The day after Thanksgiving came, and along with it the dreaded music change. So all day Black Friday, and from what I hear all day Saturday, it's Christmas music. Then on Sunday, in an act of defiance, one of my co-workers switched it to the 70s music channel. We have satellite radio. I'm pretty sure I know who it was, but I never asked him directly. In fact, none of us mentioned it beyond a brief, "Is the Christmas music off?" SHHH. Either the Mons didn't notice, or were complicit, and we all waited to see how long we'd get away with it. We were finally caught by the general manager this morning, Friday, and it's back on. No stern lecture, and no one is in trouble that I know of. But I doubt we'll get away with it again. Our GM is really nice, fair, anyway. Sigh, it was good while it lasted. A customer threw sugar over me because I couldn't fix his TV at the end of a long-haul flight, despite there only being 3 hours left, and an hour of that would have been the food service, 20 minutes would have been preparing to land, and another 20 landing. So he had an hour and 20 to kill. I offered him magazines and drinks/snacks from First. He wanted a motoring magazine. We did not have a motoring magazine, so I got him a gadget magazine and anything I thought he might be interested in. He got into a back and forth with me, shouting at me saying I could get one from first class. I explained I had checked the entire aircraft and I can promise him there is not a single motoring magazine on the plane. He continued demanding a motoring magazine, opened his sugar sachet and threw the sugar over me. Other customers were just in shock. So I told him very loudly so all the customers could hear. "Okay, you win. I'll go get you a motoring magazine. I'll just pop down 37,000 feet and retrieve it for you. I'll be about," looked at watched, and let's say about 3 hours. "I'll be back then." And walked away. It was incredibly satisfying. Our tale begins with a devilishly handsome retail worker in a microcenter. They had a video game section. Now this handsome retail worker was pretty well versed in games and pop culture, so he was a shoo-in for the job. In comes the Antichrist of our story. A blue whale-sized hell demon with a bob haircut and the sound of straining high heels clicking on the floor making the sounds of distant thunder. This walking Jupiter looks among the games and she grabs 2 of them. In a shocking bout of wisdom, she approaches the retail worker and holds up both games asking, "Which is best for a 10-year-old boy?" The games in question? GTA 4, which was new at the time, and Sonic's Sega Collection, both on PS3. Now what did this retail worker do? Well, obviously be a very responsible salesman and tell the eldritch abomination that the Sega Collection was best, waxing poetic about how the retail worker grew up on those games and enjoyed them when he was 10 years old. So the unending moi holds both games and deliberates for roughly 10 minutes. this time deciding to go against the retail worker's best judgment and bought GTA 4. The worker thought nothing of it, just the usual when it comes to monsters like this. But this is not where the tale ends. Oh no. This honorable knight wasn't prepared for this dragon's fiery breath. The next day, our still handsome rogue of a retail worker had a weird feeling, that which felt like Spider-Man's spidey sense. There she was when the store opened, the look on her face, the contours of anger upon the makeup-caked face upon the Satan spawn. He knew this day would come and was prepared. Oh, but he wasn't prepared for what was coming. You sold me a game that had violence, sex, and curse words in it. The banshee let out of her facial abyss. The roguish knight was taken aback. He mustered up his courage, looked this dragon in the eye, and said with the most customer-friendly voice, "Ma'am, if I recall, I did suggest a better game for your 10-year-old, the Sega collection?" This was his fatal mistake. Using logic against a chaotic being would be his undoing and leave him mentally scared for eternity. The monster reared its ugly head and spewed these words upon the air in which they breathed. "Well, maybe you should have been a more assertive salesman and smacked the game out of my hands." The words pierced the worker's heart. The amount of stupidity elemental damage got past his armor and it was a critical hit to his logic stat. With her screaming for aid from the manager, he told her to leave the store. To this day, our handsome retail worker has been wondering of this monster's past. Has she had someone smack something out of her hands at a store? Had she read it upon the chiseled stones of Google? I bring you this story, my young ones, as a warning to those in the future. Using logic against a Karen will only be your downfall. Edit, meant to say PS3, fixed.